you know about love? What you know about love?
What do you think was or is love's vision for us in relationship?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this question over this week. And it started because I was having a conversation about Black love stories and how so often they can be portrayed as toxic or unhealthy love stories, and how then we take on this desire to have something like that. And I personally don't feel like love um, is meant to be complicated. I know LYSH and I both have like strong faith, and even thinking about how love is described in the Bible, how God's promise of love to us does not depict what I feel like we've been shown in media. And for a lot of people, that's their only like reflections of love in their life. Not everyone has seen healthy love in their personal life, so they go to these Black love stories for hope and inspiration. Um, but however, I just think it would be most beneficial if we go straight to God. And again, like He has laid out this template for us of what love should be. And it shouldn't be complicated. It should be a place of peace and joy and happiness. And you don't have to go through trials and trauma and tragedy to get there. And so when you ask that question, I immediately just think about how there's just like this constant conflict for a lot of us who don't have examples of healthy love in our lifestyle. And so we idolize these relationships that we see on TV, movies, etc., instead of um, going to that template, going to that book, like I said, that kind of describes exactly what that love is that we should be looking for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good, sis. You said a couple of things. I don't know, because now I have to speak from a position of a woman who did have an example of what healthy love looks like, right?
Right.
My mom and daddy got married at 19 to 21. They've been together since then. And I think I saw my mama leave the house upset one time in living
Mm.
with them and knowing them for 26 years. They don't argue. They don't, I mean, and I see expressions or gestures of love all the time. And I grew up around them. Yet I in my own life and in my own experience, I was still sucked into that modernized depiction of love like you were just talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, you used the word idolizing too. And I would dare say that we idolize relationship, and maybe that's the thing. Like it's
Mm.
more so about me having my person or being with somebody. I read something on Tumblr one time. It was like, y'all don't want ride or dies, y'all want sufferers. Y'all want people who gonna suffer in silence until you stop putting
Right.
names, until you grow up, until you get it together, right? And I don't know. I feel guilty of operating as a sufferer. I feel guilty of idolizing a person or the relationship itself. And then when you talk about the map, you talk about that framework. I really studied that. I was like, I want to know what does this look like in the Bible? Like
Right.
what does love have to say about love? And I think it is so it is so on purpose. It's so intentional that God would use the analogy of the bride and the bridegroom when describing Jesus and the church.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, hmm, you know, why that bond? Why that relationship to talk about how Jesus comes for the church.
Mm.
Like the groom comes for the bride. Like he's coming after his bride, who is the church. And then to hear scriptures like husbands love your wives, um, the way that Christ loved the church. And it's like, okay, well, I know the extent that Christ loved the church on the base on the simplest of level with the simplest of terms. He died for the church. Like he died for the body. So what am I and at that point I had to kind of confront self, like, LYSH, what
Mm,
are you settling for, that you are willing to accept something that is not selfless? You willing to accept something that is not intentional?
yeah.
You willing to accept something that is without intimacy? You willing to accept something, that is not reaching for you? And if I got chill bumps right now thinking about it. Like, I got this beautiful framework. What is that?
Hmm.
Do you think? I don't know. Aside from we kind of talked about idolization. I guess what creates that? Why do we have this beautiful idea that we are willing to step away from and just take, something else? Just take
Yeah.
what other people are willing to give.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't have the answer, but I feel like it could come from a place of like lacking patience. And it's like, how long am I going to wait until this perfect person who is meant for me is going to come along? So you try to put that in somebody else, or you're willing to, like you said, settle for something that you may feel like is less deserving of you, because it's like, at least I have my person. And I think so many of us get caught up on this idea of like, at least I have this person, at least I'm in relationship, at least there's a body there that can help me feel something. And it may not be exactly what, we completely have aspired to have, but it's like, it's something. And I think because we lost patience, we're so quick to just be like, okay, well, this is what it's going to be. This is what I'm just going to take. And that's why I said, I think it's just this constant conflict, especially when you're someone who is like, better, like you're aware that there is so much more. But I think in those moments, like, it's good to have, or it feels nice to have someone who you feel like wants you. And so you get caught up in that moment and then forget everything else that you've been taught or shown or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I bet, girl, that's the whole whole question. It's like, why? I don't know why.
I, I think that anytime that we really lose sight of love, really lose sight of God, we just kind of create space for chaos. We create space for
Mm,
attack. We create the space for defeat. And
mm,
so much more can be born from those spaces, like them unhealthy relations. We talked about Malcolm and Marie of this pod. Because we talked about Malcolm and Marie, and I mean, I've heard other people discuss the movie, and it was like, oh yeah, they did this, they did that, but how they love each other is just, and I'm looking like, how they what, how they what, and
like,
that's
how is that love? That's what's
how is
just mind boggling. Like, how is that love? But again, going back to what we were saying earlier, if you've never been shown or exposed to real love, or if you have lost patience with love, that you'll accept that as like, that's just my reality. That's just what I'm gonna get.
right, right, exactly, and that's painful, and it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. You listen to the kinds of things that they were saying to each other in the movie, and then they kept rushing back into each other, rushing back into each other. Like, we just gonna keep feeding the argument. We're gonna sleep in the same bed. We're gonna wake up
Mm-hmm.
one another. That was just a lot. It was a lot to me, but like that's what I think that's what I'm trying to communicate whenever I say in those spaces where we have lost sight of love, we create
Mm,
room for all kinds of trauma and all kinds of pain. That was absolutely an abusive relationship.
yeah.
Absolutely. Somebody exploiting you on the things that you feel the most shame about. Somebody, talking down on you the way that they do. Somebody trying to control or manipulate you, not acknowledging you, not giving you the appreciation that you deserve. And yet we could still, I mean, I heard so many mouths label that as love.
Right.
And it's like, where did Jesus ever shame somebody that he loved? Like, where does God do that to us? I it upsets me, and then it also humbles me because I know that I've been in both spaces. Like, you're able to be on the outside looking in now and be able to look from an analytical eye. It's like, a veil was removed from my own eyes. Like, operating in this space, thinking some of the words I even said, this is all there is for me. It doesn't get any better than this. And that is not true. It's just not true.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I can honestly admit my eyes were not on love. They were not on who is truly love. And it's only been in this season that I've been able to look at and be able to really see how God loves me. Like,
Yeah.
how he really, really loves me. And then to be able to mirror that, or make that, to be able to identify that as the way that I should be being pursued romantically. That's a whole other world for me. It's like, what? LYSH can get that from a guy? That's what I'm supposed to have? What? It's a whole new world.
Yeah. Yeah. No, when you were talking, it just kind of raised this question I was thinking, because I know both of us have like this vision of love and like marriage and family for our lives. But I wonder, just like from what we've seen like on social media or with like our associates and friends, like, do you think people are actually seeking love in their lives right now? Because I mean, I think, again, going back to like, are people seeking companionship? Is it just like they just want a partner to kind of do life with? Like, is it like coming from a place of lust? Like, are people just wanting someone physically to be there? Like, are we actually, well, not us, but like, are people actually in the pursuit of love right now? Because that's something I just sometimes don't know too. Because I know, at least from myself, in places where I thought I was, operating in love, I realized that it was coming from something else. Like, it was something else that I was really yearning and really operating in that space of. So I just wonder if that's the case for other people, especially, young women our age, where everyone's getting ready for a hot girl summer. It's like, so are we really seeking love in these moments?
Right. No, facts. I think that, heartbreak is its own thing. And I think that when people have felt a certain kind of pain, or people look around and they only see hopelessness, they choose to normalize basic stuff, mediocre stuff. That's really what I believe. It's like, it's so much harder, or it seems that it's so much harder to attain that beautiful vision. So what I'll do instead is just be a hot girl, or I'll just be in this until the next thing comes along, or I just play my position. I heard that said to me, and it still blows my mind. I'll just play my position until, or basically, like we were saying earlier, like suffer in silence until I can get raised up out of this, until he decides to act right. And like I said, I think the heart of those two things would be both heartbreak and hopelessness.
Yeah.
And I think that hopelessness also works in with that impatience too, because I'm not thinking about or even expecting anything to be better. I'd rather be touched right now. I'd rather be seen right now. I'd rather be felt right now. Even if I know that this relationship that he has with me or she has with me is also something that they share with somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that it's a sad it's a sad truth. Like, it's a sad truth when you think, especially whenever you're looking at somebody that you've known. And I mean, this is me and my confessions with God. Kind of like process. It's like, this is the thing that makes sense because I've seen this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I touched this belonged to me, and I've never seen anybody else come close. So why not just work this or stay around this until it becomes something.
Yeah.
And that is a clear sign of hopelessness and of faith. And I think that was a big part of my conviction too. Like, who is it that you're hoping in? Are you hoping in this person, or are you hoping in me? Are you really hoping in God? Are you really hoping in love and who he is?
Yeah.
And that again brings us right back to him, because if we only looking at our own game, we only looking at our immediate our desires being met immediately, or having them passions felt or filled immediately. We not looking at something that takes time to build and takes time to last, and
Yeah.
appreciating the process of taking the steps with that person. We just, holding on to toxicity, holding on to abuse, holding on to a damaging situation, or just an empty situation.
Yeah.
Passion, no fire, no nothing, but it's just two bodies in one place, not connected, but in the same space, because we just choose not to believe. We choose not to put our hope in love, in he who is love.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it brings me back to like what I think about the vision that he had for us, and I think about my story, think about how he has shown me, and it's like one thing I'm working on. Like, I was writing a new poem today, and it starts with my face. My floor knows my face. And I just confess that over the year, the pandemic, and just being purged, like so many times, I just found myself just on my floor, like, and not
Yeah.
moving, not just letting my tears roll if I am crying that day, or just laying there trying to catch my breath. But the end of the poem talks about who peels me off of the floor. Like, and even though God is not physically touching me, it's all, some days it seems like I feel that I'm being pulled up off of the floor, like I'm being
Yeah.
reached for in my empty space. And that is love. Like, that's intimacy. That is affection. That is selfless. One, and because I continue to remind myself, like, God don't need me. He doesn't need me. He doesn't need any of us, and yet he loves us anyway, And so I don't know. When I really thinking about what I think that God wanted us to experience, it can't be without fire. Like, it can't be without that desire. It can't. I don't feel that if what we're supposed to have should mirror how Christ loves the church. You can't tell me that Christ loved the church without intensity. Like, you can't tell me that he did not go through the fire, because we saw it, we read about it, we just celebrated Easter. Like, we know what Christ has done for the church. So yeah, if it's missing that light, if it is missing that feeling, then it can't be from God, and that means I gotta keep waiting. I don't know. I think people have just become more self-centered. We just become more about what feels good in the right now, and we are missing what we could have.
Yeah.
It's that thing that I know that God wants us to have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's so unfortunate that I think there was a point where you were saying, this can sustain me for right now, but I know like bigger is coming in the future. But it's like, in my mind, when you're, again, operating in a place that is damaging, it's doing more than quote unquote sustaining you. I think it's taking you a few steps back. So it's like people have this idea of like, oh, I'll just settle in this space for right now, and then later along the line, like you said, like I'll pull myself up, or this person will expose something that you already know is there, and then I'll have the courage to leave. And it's like, but then you have to deal with aftermath of that situation, like those moments that you thought were just going to be in your present are things that you have to like unpack in future relationships, that you have to unpack like with yourself in your season of singleness. So it's like, is it really worth it to just stay in something that you truly don't feel like is, like you said, loving you the way you believe that Christ loved the church, or however your analogy, even if you're not a person of faith, like, right from wrong. Like, so it's like, if this person is Yeah, if this person is literally like abusing you physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever the case may be, you know you're not in the right space. You can feel it. And I think oftentimes, like we said, people either act ignorant to it or they say this is good for right now, not realizing that even when it ends, you have to deal with that damage. And even when you feel like that quote unquote person that you're supposed to be with comes in your life, if you are still dealing with the damage from a situation that you settled for, it's gonna mess up that whole situation. Like, so it's like, again, is it worth it? Like, what's the sustainability of feeling sustained in those moments? So it's like, I don't know. So I was just thinking when you were talking.
No, and we talked about even just sharing the same space with people, how that space has to be like nourishing. It should be. It should be feeding you. It should be teaching you. And if you are aligned with somebody, whether it's a friend or a partner who is not, raising you up, you soaking in whatever it is
Right.
around you. So it's either we talking about, what the sustainability about being sustained. Not only could you be, messing, and I think about stuff from a spiritual place. So I think about, how my mistakes might hinder or might pause some of the things that I should have reached, Not that they won't come to me, because by grace we can still get to where
Yeah.
God wants us to go. However, when we choose to go our way outside of his way, there are consequences, period. And I mean, you think about just a basic level, we thinking about relationship. What if you playing around doing this or doing that, and then there's a baby, or
Yeah.
you get a disease or something like that, or I don't you end up just being in this thing that has gone on and has gone on, and you don't know how to get out of it. Like,
Right.
there's no, but like you were saying, there's still so much emotional damage, so much stuff that you would have to deal with and confront.
Right.
You have just chosen to be around and be around and be around. So not only are you hindering your growth and hindering your keeping yourself from getting to a place or being around a certain group of people who will want you to excel, who will want you to, learn how to overcome, not keep you in one spot. But you, as long as you stay in that one spot, you draw everything that is there in that space. And
Right.
if you are meant to be somebody's wife or somebody's husband, and you finally get out of there, you might be 10 years behind where you should have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is the sustainability?
Yeah.
3 words. I don't know how to. I think for me right now, where I'm at right now, I wish I would have been more awake.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been more in tune with who love is and how he wanted to love me, and
Yeah.
how he has always loved me, that I would accept it. And so now it's this thing, like I be looking at my life sometimes, I'm like, this was a wrong turn, this was a wrong turn, this was a wrong turn. And even being purged myself of just soul tie after soul tie. And I mean, the strongest soul tie being something I'm still, healing from.
Yeah.
I don't know where I might be now had
Yeah.
I stopped to really receive what it is I feel like all our hearts are seeking, and that is love. And
Yeah.
is time that I feel like, that's time I write about, because it's time that I don't get back, as memories that I don't have, and it's experiences that I didn't get because of my stubbornness and because of my choice. And now, as I'm looking at my life, I'm realizing what I had was never going to be enough anyway. So all this
Yeah.
was spent, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then to come on the other side of it and realize that you're not fulfilled in whatever it was you're trying to hold on to so tightly. Okay. So now we out of time and we out of a relationship. And now it's just like nobody but me and love to get myself back together. And that takes time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I be wanting to like shout it from the rooftops. Let's everybody just stop, take a breath, figure out what we're doing.
Girl, literally in my mind, I'm thinking like, it's so great that you're so conscious of like everything that you've gone through and like your why. Cause I feel like so many people are not conscious of like, why are they in this space? Like, why were they in that space a couple of years ago? They just continue to move on. And like you said, I think the moving on period without acknowledgement of your wrongdoings or some of those like wrong turns that you've taken can damage your future relationships. And even just the concept of like with soul ties, I think there's so many young people who don't understand like how serious of a connection you have when you give yourself to somebody. Because I was talking to somebody the other day, and they don't like claim Christianity. So it's like, I was talking about soul ties and they're just like, nah, whatever. And I'm just like, but do you see how you're still talking about women that you've interacted with 10 years ago?
Mhm.
Like you are in a whole relationship now, but you're still reflecting on moments that happened 10 years ago. So
Right.
you can't tell me soul ties. So it's just like,
Your mouth said one thing, but sir.
it's like you're losing a place of, again, consciousness. We're all just, it's just operating in ignorance. And again, I just think it's just would be so much more powerful. Like you said, if everyone stopped, took a second and thought like, okay, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Why did I do that? And then move forward. So then you can just, I guess, do better, like in the most simple terms. Because I
Right.
don't know, I feel like so many of us, and I was thinking about this because you asked me a question a couple weeks ago, and it's just like, do you feel like we abuse love? And I'm just like, the more and more we continue to talk about this today, I'm like, dang, I know I have. I know other people who have. And it's because we aren't being conscious of like our decisions, either until way later or for some people never at all. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with the stop what you're doing. Figure it out.
Yeah, I don't, you know, that idea, we could talk about soul ties on a whole nother, episode, whatever we want to call these. But a big piece of being unleashed has to do with freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I am realizing, I mean, we really talk about being tied to somebody. Like, how often do you think about them? How often do you spend time with them? Like, and even whenever you not, I think I realized the magnitude of soul ties whenever I was not with a person, was not spending time with them, but I cannot or I could not have my own thoughts. Like I could not have
Right.
my own anything inside of my head. And it's like everything is walking me back to this, is making me think about this. Every time I see something, I'm thinking about this now. And it's like, no, I want the freedom. And
Mm.
when we think about all of us, I mean, we are the people who, seek connection with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So if we are completely tied in knots, to other people because we refuse to take that breath, to stop, to ask God to restore, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what we had lost, or
Mm-hmm.
pieces of soul that we have given to other people, so that we can be whole. If we have not, clung to the hem of his garment in order to be whole,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm too knotted. I'm too tied up for anything that is mine. I'm not getting my freedom and I'm not getting my love. Like I'm not doing it because I'm steadily, twisting and turning in
Right.
something that just was never meant for me. And not to say that soul ties all have to be bad, because they're not all bad. Some of them are holy, but some of them ain't. And the ones where we created when we were abusing love, because I'm guilty too. To call something love that is not a mirror image of what God has given to us.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful. It's just disrespectful to him. It's disrespectful to me. It's disrespectful to whoever I call myself loving. Like,
Right.
to be selfish and not selfless, to be, too concerned with my own agenda and not to be forgiving, not to be merciful. If I'm acting like that and calling myself loving, if I'm not being accountable and or leading somebody to be accountable and calling myself love, I'm messing it up. That's
Right.
not, and it's not okay to do that. So if we talking about them ties from those relationships, Then we talking about unholy soul ties, and we talking about knots. We talking about pain. We talking about,
Yeah.
just discontentment, hopelessness. And I
Mm.
guess it's like those things like we were talking about before that come up from those spaces. And if we consistently feed that, and I think I check myself even with that and the idea of idolization, we kind of talked about it a couple of days ago, but I'm still processing and dealing with it and really repenting over it. But
Right.
how much of myself did I give to this person? How much of myself was I willing to give up for this person?
Mm.
Was I giving God the same kind of energy?
Mm.
Like at that point, I don't need no guy. If I'm thinking about that and I can't answer, I gave God more or I did more for God, or I um had my priorities straight. It was God, then man, then if I can't say that, then I have created an idol. And on top of that, I have lost myself. I don't need
Yeah.
nobody's love but his at this point, because I have to get myself back.
Yeah.
And I don't know, confronting self lately has been a lot of that, a lot of them deep thoughts, like how deep was this wrong? How bad was
Mm.
it wrong? And it's a whole lot more than just what other people have done to me. It has a lot to do with what I've done to,
Yeah.
and done against love. So it's a dangerous space to me to be in, to be abusing or turning your back to love and what it truly is, who he truly is.
Yeah. 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 That's why I think it is important to have like those intuitive moments where you can just like truly reflect on that and kind of, like you said, identify when I'm giving somebody else more than I'm giving myself, or I'm giving God, or I'm giving my family, or I'm giving my whatever else important in your life, when you just like absorb just this one being and neglect everything else. I think that is a clear sign that, maybe I should rethink this. But I think it can't happen unless, again, like we keep saying, like people are being conscious and people are kind of thinking through every step of the way. Like, because I think with love, or what we want to be loved, we often just like kind of lose ourselves and our ability to think straight. And so that's what, again, I think it's just like, you gotta kind of like check back in and be like, okay, no, like, is this right? Is this healthy? Is this taking me where I feel like I'm supposed to go? Or is this hindering me? And if it is, it's like, then you need to do the work, one, to get out the situation, and two, to just like rebuild love for yourself without needing someone else to build it for you.
Hey,
And then it's like, then you can become in a space where you can give it to other people. I forgot the quote. I was on Instagram, and
yeah,
there, I believe he's a poet, and he had posted something to the nature of like, I'm not looking for love anymore, like outside of me, until I can say like, what is love, and kind of like picture myself as well. Like, am I also putting out what I think should be love? If not, then that's also problematic. Like, I can't keep looking in other places for like a healthy relationship, for healing, if I don't even know how to do that with myself.
hey,
Because then again, you either are damaging a person, or the situation just becomes like real chaotic. So it's just like, you have to have those moments for yourself where you're really truly kind of thinking through. And I mean, I guess like for some people that can seem like more like task, because I know like me, you always call me a realist, but I'm just like, I'm very like task oriented. So it's like, to me, that makes sense to just like be like, okay, I need a checkpoint with myself to be like, am I good? Is this good? But I don't know for like if everyone, if that also is like realistic. But I see that being something that could be beneficial for people.
yeah. I was gonna say, and something that you said made me think about it. Even aside from the work, the task being done,
Mm-hmm.
I think that people miss. I think at some point, maybe when we talked about the self love thing, at some point when we in situations like that, maybe we have taken away from, or taken away from our pool, our pot of love for self. That
Mm.
us think that we're not worthy of the freedom outside of a relationship that is not for us, or outside of a
Yeah.
that is not for us. And it's like, why, again, I gotta speak from a personal place, but why do you think that this is all there is for you? Why did you
Hmm.
think that this is, acceptable, or that you should let that slide? Do you not think like you would be less stressed if you were only dealing with your own self and your own stuff versus who he texting or who he's seeing or who's staying over or all that? Like, where I just feel like that's connected. If we that afraid of walking away from a damaging situation,
Hmm.
and that vision of love in self that we should have, we must not have. Because
Hmm.
I love myself enough to protect myself, I love myself enough to set my boundaries, then at a certain point, leaving is an easy thing. That should be a no-brainer. It should be. No, I ain't saying that because I'm trying to, me. You know me, no. You know what I'm saying? Leaving should be a no-brainer, but and maybe that's a thing to confront. If I cannot get away, if I'm choosing to remain here, if I'm choosing to stay here, am I really loving myself? Do I really love myself? And if I can't say that I do, then that's a scary place to be in, but it's a real place to be in. And when you can confront,
Yeah.
when you can acknowledge it, then you can make a play from that space. Like, oh, I have lost myself in this. I have lost love and respect for myself in this. This is where I need God to meet me. Like, this is where I need real love to meet me. And I need to go back to the blueprint. I need to look at what love looks like so that I can help find myself in Him, and then like be regroup, like just
Yeah.
come back into me. And I don't know. I think people are scared of that though. I think people are scared to say the real because it's difficult. I mean, everybody want to say that they love themselves, but
Yeah.
love is an action word no matter who you're using it with.
Right.
So if you saying you love yourself and you are accepting and receiving so much mess off of another person, somebody got their wires crossed.
Hmm.
Something in the water ain't right. Something in the water ain't right. But yeah, I think we could definitely talk about all this goody all the long, us. But I think we left some good nuggets on the table for people to chew on. Who is love? How does he love us?
Yeah.
Am I loving myself? Is my relationship, whatever the relationship be, loving me the way that love loves me? And I hope that a lot of people can answer some good answer positively, but I also hope that we can be brave enough to courageous enough to walk away
Yeah.
into love, because we ain't never without it. If we really really honest about it, we never without love. It may not be the kind that we want, but it is absolutely the kind that we need. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is a journey. Um, like I feel like we talk in good game right now, but we both have been in positions where we're on the opposite side.
right.
It's just like, once you know better, you do better. And if not, like you're just damaging yourself. Then you again become the problem. And I think again, like being able to be conscious about both your rights and your wrongs and how situations panned out and why they panned out so that you don't repeat the same behaviors in the future, well, the negative behaviors in the future, I think is so important. But like I said, it is a journey. Like no one is perfect. Again, like we were built to desire other people and want companionship. So it's easy to get mixed up in it. But I think you just ultimately have to do what's best for you, especially if you're someone who has like I said in the beginning, like a vision of something more. Like if you have a vision of family, a vision of marriage, a vision of true love, then you have to operate in the space where you're pursuing that and moving towards that and not doing the opposite. Because you don't ever want it to be where, 10 years from now, you're still acting like, well, I'm still acting like Rihanna when she was 18. Like you just don't want that to be the case. And as you start building family and bringing other people in, you don't also want to then mess up somebody else's vision and interpretation of love, because it just then becomes a cycle of problems. So, but yeah, so it's just like, yeah, just ride this journey out. I don't know.
Thanks. I think, well, you did say something that I feel like we should highlight before we get off, but that there is no shame in love. I feel I've been in certain arenas I just really shouldn't have been in, with how I've kind of stretched and evolved and grown past the space. However, to feel that someone is trying to humiliate me or make me to feel ashamed for truly loving somebody, that's just, I mean, it's not fair. We don't get to plan who we love, or like who we
Yeah.
love with, or when it happens, or any of that. So for anybody who is, reflecting and you thinking about, this is where I went wrong and this is where I went wrong, and there is still like no shame in the fact that you were brave enough to love somebody, an imperfect person. Again, like all the
Right.
stuff you were saying, we were built for connection. We were built for a relationship. We were created for a relationship. There is nothing wrong with feeding that and trusting in, something that you feel like is yours. However, whenever we get to that, that's not where the shame lies. And shame doesn't come from God anyways. But whenever we get to that space where we are able to analyze and look at it, like, am I dying here? Is my soul like suffering in this place? It's okay to walk away. Like that's
Yeah.
I have to continue to tell myself, like, I didn't quit on him. I didn't quit on the relationship. I didn't quit on love, but this was not for me. Nobody else can make me feel dirty, ugly, humiliated for loving him, loving nobody, period. And now that I'm learning how to love myself, I can take deep breaths through all of my wrong turns. I can
Right.
take deep breaths through every wrong turn and trust that it's just a process.
Yeah.
What you know about love? What you know?